So if folks could just grab a chair, I think we have maybe well, I don't want to be competitive, but maybe the best presentations here today before lunch. But although I will say as a participant, I think the presentations have been very strong and I've learned a lot today. So good morning. I'm Jonathan Rubin. I'm the director of the Margaret Chase Smith Policy Center, and the reason I am here is because I serve as a thrust leader for the Transportation Center on the lead thrust area for connectivity and enhanced asset and performance management. And it's my pleasure here to moderate the session, and I'm going to give a very short talk, 5 minutes, to set the stage for our other speakers, Rick Corey from the VEMI Center and Sarah Yeager from Maine Mobility. And Rick and I are going to speak 5 minutes or so, and we're going to hold for a longer talk from Sarah because we think you want to hear from a company that's actually deploying autonomous vehicles in rural areas. So I think I want to hear what Sarah has to say, although I will say we had dinner last night and we had a long talk. But so with that, let's begin. Oh, don't forget about me. Okay, so why connected autonomous vehicles? Rural communities, as we know, longer commuting distances, aging population, safety, we just talked about safety. Public transit is not as strong, obviously, in rural areas, and ride sharing is not as strong, and it's all more expensive. So that's the setup here. And I want to talk about rural resilience here, which is at least in Maine, it's a very significant issue. And public transit, I believe, really can help here for rural resilience. And we know in principle what to do: demand response, flexible service routes, right-sizing vehicles, integration with volunteer driver programs like INT America. And of course, we're talking today about is connected autonomous vehicles and why they can be a solution here to rural transit and rural resilience. I'm only going to show you a couple slides on this. I'm not going to talk about it much, but when we're talking about connectivity, we mean vehicles that speak to infrastructure and vehicles that can see people and bicycles. That's what connectivity means. And Sarah and Rick may talk more about that. Similarly, when we talk about autonomy, I'm going to talk about level 5 autonomy, which really means that the driver does not have to pay attention. So notwithstanding Tesla's claim about full self-driving, which is considered level 2 by federal standards, I'm going to be talking about level 5, where you really don't need a driver to be engaged. So what are the challenges for transportation in rural areas? Really, it's first of all, I realize that for rural residents, transportation is a major cost to households. This is data from the Consumer Expenditure Survey. 15% of average rural income is for vehicle purchases and maintenance and insurance. Half of that's for the car. The rest is for operating and insurance. Autonomous vehicles are going to cost more. Upfront purchase price, there's no question. But the operational cost could be lower. And and you have to say to yourself, what's the user case for them? There's the private vehicle, like I would love an autonomous vehicle so I can go visit my sister in Boston and just chill out and sleep. But there's also the shared user case where you have the mobility as a service. And so that means, we'll say, what's that mean? Okay, well, if in terms of costs, if it's your own personal time, right? If you take a drive to Boston from here, your time is the most expensive part of that drive. Most people's time, although and it's driver wages in a ride share situation, and that's of course why Tesla is trying to develop their robotaxi, as is Uber, right? Because you get the driver out of the vehicle, you might be able to lower the cost by half per trip mile. We just did we just finished a Maine travel survey. Here are some results. I won't drag you through them too much, but I do want to point out that for low-income households, less than $35,000 a year, 40% of the respondents said they sometimes or frequently missed work because of unreliable transportation. So financial cost and hardship, it's a workforce issue. This is an economic development issue. It's not just we'd like people to have more access. It really is an economic development issue, and it's important. Another one from our recent survey says, answering the question, please indicate your level of agreement or disagreement. I'd like to see more investment in travel options in my area. The reason I'm showing this slide is what's interesting here is that if you can't read the legend, its education did not accomplish, did not finish high school through graduate degree. You'll see that most people, regardless of education, and education correlates very strongly with income, most people, regardless of income and economic education and economic status, feel that we need more options. And then similarly, in terms of where people live, rural, small town, suburban, or city, it's the same question. Everybody pretty much wants more options. And so that is really why I think autonomous vehicles need to be part of this, part of the answer here for rural mobility, and as well as urban mobility. But I'm an economist, so I want to talk about the business case for affordable mobility and enhancing transit. For those that are not transit people, you need to remember that about 80% of single trips, if you've gone on a passenger basis, about 80% of a trip is 80% of someone's ride is subsidized. That means fare box revenues are only 20% of what a transit trip means. So if you have to, so the business case for adding autonomous vehicles into a mobility solution for rural areas is not that they have to necessarily be profitable, but they don't have to cost 80%. They may not need an 80% subsidy, and you can enhance mobility. And that's an important point that I really want to think about. I want you to realize we're not saying they necessarily have to break even, especially at first, but public transit is 80% subsidized. And that is the reality. And we need more public transit, but it's very expensive. So and you can read this. I recommend a book by Kornhauser and Senna. These slides will be posted. You can get the exact reference there. But they talk about this. What's the business case for this? And I think that is the important question to answer here. With that, I'll just say a couple things that we don't know. We don't really know the costs and benefits of what this means fully. Infrastructure costs. Roads, we heard today how much unmet infrastructure deferred maintenance is already out there. I will say that autonomous vehicles, Sarah may correct me, but I believe that snow and dust and dirt on the roads, it will be an additional obstacle. And so we have to think about the additional costs of maintaining our roads to allow autonomous vehicles to operate safely. Maine, just perspective, Maine already spends $150 million a year in ice and snow removal, just to put the orders of magnitude in here. It's unclear what this is going to mean for dispersal housing, and if you care about energy, unless all the vehicles are on electric running renewable energy, it's a greenhouse gas issue as well if you start getting sprawl because of the lower costs of going further away. And with that, I will stop with that, and I'd like to introduce Rick Corey. And Dr. Corey will be talking about AI, transportation, and humans. Rick Corey is the director of the VEMI Lab at the University of Maine. He holds a PhD in collaborative practices and a master's in fine art in intermedia, and is co-founder of the VEMI Lab. He has focused, and that's what he's going to talk about today, is how humans interact with technology and in particular vehicles. Since its founding in 2008, VEMI has been awarded more than 14 million in prizes and awards, including a top 3 finish in the U.S. Department of Transportation's Inclusive Design Challenge in 2022, and has been featured in more than 280 media and academic publications, and with 150 student-led publications. And I'm impressed. Rick has been, when I say this next sentence here, Rick has also been named UMaine Supervisor of the Year twice, a student-nominated award representing excellence, mentoring, and student impact. And that is hard. It's hard to be a good mentor, bring in the dollars, create innovative research. So thank you, Rick.